Yes, just a moment. Was I in here last night and did I spend a $20 bill?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, what a load that is off my mind. I thought I'd lost it.
One of my favorite aspects of having this channel is being able to introduce movies and entertainers to those who might be unfamiliar with them. W.C. Fields is one of those entertainers that I feel more people should know about, particularly within my own generation. While you may recognize his face, or at least have heard someone imitate his trademark speech,
Do you travel as one person or do you get a party rate of 10?
I assure you there's much more to his work than meets the eye. On top of being a fantastic physical comic, in the same league as Keaton and Chaplin, he was also an incredible verbal comedian, who crafted very witty dialogue and expertly delivered verbal humor.
Ooh, yes, well.
Oh, gee.
Teach you when you grow up. I never smoked a cigarette till I was 9.
He also continually pushed the censors in telling jokes that were considered pretty risque for the time.
I am the Countess de Pussy.
The Countess de Pussy?
Monsieur, no. De Puisy, le Countess de Puisy.
Oh, quite so, quite so.
To those of you who are familiar with him, I'm sure you can attest to the caliber of his work. And to those who aren't, sit back and allow me the great pleasure of introducing you to W.C. Fields.
Well, from the little acorn grew the mighty oak.
William Claude Dukenfield was born just outside of my hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1880. There, he spent much of his youth fending for himself on the streets of downtown Philadelphia while honing the wit that would become his trademark someday. By age 17, he had become known as a local celebrity for his juggling act, a talent he would continue to grow in, later showcasing this amazing skill in his movies. In the early 1900s, he shortened his name to W.C. Fields and began touring the country, where he was praised as being the world's best juggler. In his early career, Fields spent most of his time on the stage, on Broadway, and touring the vaudeville circuit. He became an acclaimed actor on Broadway, headlining acclaimed musical comedies such as Poppy. His stage character was often costumed, with a comically large top hat and a cane, fixtures that he is still identified with to this day. Even though Fields enjoyed working on the stage, by 1915 he can no longer resist the tempting calls from film studios. Teaming with comedy legend Max Sennett, Fields produced 4 short subject sound films for Paramount Pictures. The critical acclaim that followed on this new chapter of his career would continue to open new doors for him. Although he appeared as bit parts in feature films for Paramount, by 1934 they were confident to give him free rein on his own features.
Mr. McGonagall, you sit here.
Please don't call me mister, it's so formal. Call me Mark Anthony. Mark for short.
Oh, Marky.
Marky. You pierce my heart.
Now, Bertha, not too fast.
No, ma'am.
And don't drown me.
Yes, ma'am.
In the sound feature films that he starred in, Fields often played a down-on-his-luck patriarch, always looking for a way to make it big in life. Sometimes his characters were scheming con men, but more often than not, they were caring family men underneath it all. These characters were typically uncharacteristic of film leads at that time. Fields could be crass, and sometimes juvenile in his humor.
I'm a married man with a grown daughter, 18 years of age.
Oh, I'd like to meet her. I'm very fond of children. Girl children, around 18 and 20.
What did I say, love?
Yes, every word of it. Yes.
I never knew such an ungrateful father.
Listen, you've all got to realize one thing. That I
am the master of this household.
Some of the best scenes involved him clashing with his wife, and most frequently, a bratty child.
Mother's right. You've been smoking again in your room.
It'll make me love the little nipple all the more.
These scenes of Fields versus a small child were the first of their kind in comedy.
He's a brat. A brat. A B-R-A-T. Brat.
But through all the bickering, he always proved himself to be a caring father at the end of the day. In his films, he also sought to shamelessly offend high society with his crude behavior.
Wait a minute. I want to show you my private art collection. Okay, Abigail? Oh! Not bad, eh? Get the knee action?
And fondness for the alcoholic beverage.
Some fresh water. A towel, thank you. Never like to bathe in the same water twice.
Drinking became not only synonymous with his characters, but also as a way for him to script jokes.
What are you doing in the bathroom?
Brushing my teeth, dear.
Even though he used this new medium to tell verbal jokes, he never stopped being an incredible physical comic as well.
I'll tell you how we used to open them in the Army. That's what I was thinking of the Navy.
Fields also threw himself into his own films, even scripting most of them. In 1939, he was actually offered the role of the Wizard in MGM's The Wizard of Oz, which he turned down to concentrate more on his films. Even though he scripted many of his own films, he would use a pseudonym in the credits. Like in his acclaimed 1940 film The Bank Dick, which he is credited as Mahatma Cane Jeeves, a play on an old expression asking a butler for a hat and a cane.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Thank you.
He even used his character names as a way to craft jokes as well.
Suze, son, accent grave over the E.
The 9 films he headlined from 1934 to 1941 are not only the best of his career, but also just some of the greatest comedy films from that era. Not only have some of these movies been preserved by Congress, they've also continually been included in some of the greatest comedy films of all time lists.
Of your time when you're such a great artist. Oh, and it means so much to me, Marky.
It must mean a lot to you, dear.
If you're looking for a good place to start with his work, I highly recommend It's a Gift, a film in which Fields plays Sam Bisbee, a grocery store owner who takes his family on a cross-country road trip, in a film that could be considered the National Lampoon's Vacation of its time.
Oh, look what you've done.
She ran right in front of the car.
By 1941, just as film studios were tiring of his crude behavior and need to push the boundaries of censorship, Fields was also tiring of losing control over his movies. His last starring role would come in the acclaimed surreal comedy Never Give a Sucker an Even Break, in which he plays an exaggerated version of himself, dealing with the ineptitude of a major Hollywood studio, which would end his relationship with Universal Studios.
Glad to know you, Mr. Fields.
Glad to know you, Franklin.
Will you step right into my office?
Yes, I will, too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Although he hoped to make films his own way, it was hard for him to secure the financial backing to do so, especially when he had mocked most of Hollywood in his earlier work. Fields spent the rest of his career acting small parts in ensemble films. He would sadly die just 5 years later at age 66. Looking back on his film work, While most of it is considered PG by today's standards, his movies never stop trying to push the boundaries of what types of humor should be allowed in movies. Usually at the expense of his own career, he never stopped ruffling the feathers of those in charge, while equally offending just about everyone in the process.
Don't you dare strike that child! You put that down! Put it down! Put it down!
For that, in my opinion, he deserves all the exposure he can get. If you're a fan of his work, watch a movie in his honor, or show one to a friend sometime. If you're unfamiliar with him, I hope this video has inspired you to check out more of his work.
If you get up around the Grampian Hills, you must come up and see me sometime.